1. Dismantle the cylinder head assembly. Removal the intake pipe and exhaust pipe assembly. Removal the intake pipe and exhaust pipe assembly. Removal inlet pipe of pressure control that connecting with it pressure pump and inlet air pipe. Removal inlet air pipe assembly. Removal the cooling water pipe and water bypass valve that connecting with air compressor. Removal thermostat assembly. Dismantle cylinder head cover. Dismantle high pressure pipe. Dismantle fuel filter assembly and relevant pipe. Dismantle fuel injector. Dismantle lubricating oil cooler. Dismantle rocker arm shaft. Take out valve push rod. According to the press errand order, loosen the bolts of cylinder head and take out the bolts. Dismantle cylinder head assembly. Remove the cylinder gasket. Attention! When removal of the cylinder head, if lifting equipment is not available, needs 2 people work together to lift the cylinder head, pay attention to avoid injury to the operator. 2. Removal timing housing and transmission assembly. Dismantle water pump. Dismantle alternator and holder. Dismantle belt pulley fan and its hub. Dismantle main shaft belt pulley. Warning! When dismantle 6-cylinder engine of Perkins, after loosen the fastening bolts, using the wooden block support to the inner hub of belt pulley, use a hammer to knock the wooden block support until the expansion ring loose. Take out the belt pulley. Not allowed to use the extractor. Dismantle crankshaft belt pulley. Dismantle timing housing cover. Dismantle oil sump. Dismantle timing gear series. Attention! If the fuel pump does not need adjustment and replace, it may be dismantled with timing house togger, so that easy to assembly and timing. Dismantle fuel pump. Dismantle observation cover on the timing housing. Pin the fuel pump through JBCKSCREW. Attention! 4-button to turn the engine under the situation, otherwise should demand the fuel pump. Removal the bolts of fuel pump flange. Disjointed the fuel pump and transmission gear through special tools, and take out the pump. Attention! When removal the fuel pump, if the pump needed maintenance, it may make a scratch on the pump flange and timing housing, so that easy to install. 3. Dismantle piston connecting rod assembly. Dismantle pressure release valve and oil suction pipe. Dismantle oil pump. Clean carbon deposit on the upside of cylinder liner. Warning! If not cleaned or cleaned them up, may cause damage to the piston ring. Loosen connecting rod bolts and connecting rod cap. Dismantle connecting rod tile and cover. Warning! Tile cover and tile should be placed neatly in order, not to be bumped, otherwise, it will affect the precision of assembly. Take out piston connecting rod assembly. Warning! When dismantle piston connecting rod assembly, to avoid knock the nozzle, or it will affect the result of cooling and lubrication of piston. Dismantle and assembly cylinder liner. When need to replace the cylinder liner, it should use a special tool. When install the new cylinder liner, as well it shall use a special tool to press into the cylinder. Four. Dismantle crankshaft assembly. Dismantle rear oil seal. Dismantle bridge frame. Loosen the fastening bolts of the main bearing cover successively. Warning: the main bearing tile cover be dismantled should be placed neatly in order, not to be bumped, otherwise, it will affect the precision of assembly. Attention! The first main bearing tile cover mounted oil pump idle wheel drive pin. Take out crankshaft. If the lifting equipment is not available, it shall be take out with 2 people work together. Take out the thrust plate of main bearing. Dismantle fuel delivery pump. Dismantle camshaft. Warning: before dismantle the camshaft must remove all the fuel delivery pump, otherwise, it should damage the fuel delivery pump. If the lifting equipment is not available, it shall be take out with 2 people work together. Engine installation process and technical requirements. 1. Install crankshaft assembly. Install valve tappet. Remind: before installation, ensure the surface is clean and no scratch, and apply cleaning oil to the surface. When installing the tappet should ensure that installation hole at the tilt's angle of 45 to 60 degrees, and it is slow descent state. Clamping stagnation is not allowed. Install cooling nozzle. Warning: when install the cooling nozzle must alignment to the pinhole of location. Do not change the original jet direction at will, otherwise, should affect the result of cooling and lubrication of piston. Install camshaft. Remind: before installation, ensure the surface is clean and no scratch, and apply cleaning oil to the surface. Install the main bearing tile to the original install hole. Warning: before installation, ensure the original install hole and tile surface must be clean and nor has other goods, otherwise should affect precision of assembly. And apply clean oil to the surface of tile. Install crankshaft. Before installation, ensure all working surface must be clean. Remind: if the lifting equipment is not available, it shall be lifted by 2 people working together. Put the crankshaft to the located position. Install upper half of thrust plate. Remind: when install upper half of thrust plate with oil groove side shall be faced to crankshaft side. Install main bearing cover. Remind: the first main bearing tile cover mounted oil pump idle wheel drive pin. The middle tile cover width is significantly larger than other tile cover. The above special parts of the early engine on the 2 cover is not marked with numbers. Warning: before installation, ensure the original install hole and tile surface must be clean and nor has other goods, otherwise should affect precision of assembly. And apply clean oil to the surface of tile. Apply clean oil to the main bearing journal. Install the lower half of the spindle thrust plate on both sides of the middle cover, and install tile cover in place. Attention! When installed, thrust plate with oil groove side should face to the crankshaft side. When installing the tile cover, the locating slot of the tile on the tile cover should be on the same side as the locating slot of the original mounting hole of the crankshaft. Install other tile covers successively. Warning! When locking the tile cover, the middle tile cover shall be tightened first, evenly and symmetrically tightened in several stages, and then tightened one by one from the middle to the outside. The main bearing cover bolt torque as following: 4-cylinder, 250 Nm plus or minus 10 Nm, 6-cylinder, 265 Nm plus or minus 10 Nm. Attention! After tightening a pair of bolts, turning the crankshaft with hands, check it if rotate flexibly, so that early find the problem of assembling process. After installation crankshaft, check the axial clearance. Attention! Push the crankshaft to one side, shaft and dial gauge alignment to 0. 2. Install piston connecting rod assembly. Install the piston rings. The piston has 3 rings, 2 air rings, 1 oil ring. The first ring groove has a hard metal insert to enhance the strength and wear resistance of the ring groove. Install oil ring. Firstly, put the spring in the oil ring to the groove. Using the special tool, install the oil ring in place. Remind: the open position of oil ring should stagger 180 degrees to the oil ring of spring interface. Install second ring. Remind: the side of printed top should face to top of piston. Install the first piston ring. The side of printed top should face to top of piston. After installing the 3 piston rings, please observe whether the color marks on both sides of 2 rings are on the left side of the opening. Otherwise, it is necessary to check and confirm. Warning: when install the piston ring, should choose the proper tools, otherwise, it should damage the piston rings. Install piston connecting rod assembly. Install the circlip to the piston pinhole with circlip plier. Remind: when installing the connecting rod, please pay attention to the position of the piston skirt boss and make sure that the positioning slot of the connecting rod bit head connecting rod tile is on the same side. Connect the piston and connecting rod through piston pin. Warning: when installing piston, it may uniform heating piston to 50-60 degree. Prohibit flame heating the piston. In the same time, apply the clean oil to the piston pin. Installing the other side circlip with circlip puller. After installation circlip, check and ensure the circlips are fully placed in the circlip groove. Clean up the cylinder liner and pour lubricating oil. Install connecting rod tile in place. Warning: before installation, ensure the original install hole and tile surface must be clean and nor has other goods, otherwise should affect precision of assembly. And apply clean oil to the surface of tile. Confirm the installation direction and put it into the cylinder liner. When installation the piston, please pay attention to the A on the top of piston. It must face to the front end of engine, and ensure the open of 3 piston rings should stagger 120 degree each other. Apply clean oil to the piston rings. Please using special tools to install piston connecting rod assembly in place, otherwise, may cause the damage to the piston rings when install the piston connecting rod assembly. Please pay attention to not knock the cooling nozzle. When install the tile and tile cover of connecting rod, ensure the both positioning slots should be on the same side. Installing the connecting rod cover in place. Tightening the bolts of connecting rod. Remind, the number between the connecting rod with the tile cover shell should be the same, and on the same side. 4 button to change the tile cover each other. The tightening toe geared bolts is 155 Nm plus or minus 10 Nm. Check the connecting rod channeling the amount 0.218 mm - 0.364 mm. Installing the other connecting rod assembly successively. 3. Installing the timing gear housing in transmission assembly. Installing the lubricating oil pump. Install the lubricating oil pump to the transmission box of firstly cylinder main bearing cover, using 3 screw tightening it. Install middle idler of oil pump, install gasket and thrust circlip. After installation idler of oil pump, ensure the circlip should be on the circlip groove, and check the clearance between main gear and oil pump gear is no less than 0.076 mm. Install idler hub in place. The oil hole on the middle idler hub should alignment to the oil hole on the engine body. Install camshaft thrust plate in place. The pinhole on the thrust plate should correspond to the pinhole position on the cylinder body. Install 2 guiding bolts to the engine body, and put gasket in place. Install timing housing in place, screw into the bolt, take out the 2 guiding bolts at the same time. Before tightening, the special tools should be used, and install the timing housing and face and cylinder body and face should in the same plane, tightening the bolts in the same time. Install camshaft gear. Install middle idler. When installing the intermediate idler, the calibration lines of the 3 position on it should be aligned with the calibration line of the fuel pump gear, camshaft gear and crankshaft gear respectively, locking the bolts. After installation timing gear system, check the meshing clearance of each gear, whether meet the technical requirements. Remove the excess part of seal washer. Install bridge frame. Install the bridge frame in place. Screw bolts. After alignment, tightening bolts. Choose the appropriate tools. Ensure the bridge frame side plane and cylinder body side plane is in the same plane. Use 5699 C-cap to seek the gap between the bridge frame and cylinder body. Install rear oil seal. The rear oil seal and seal shell cast into a body in advance. The early oil seal were separated from the shell. Install the oil seal in place, tightening the bolts. Warning: before install the seal, apply clean oil to the oil seal. Please use suitable special tool. Install oil seal in place, otherwise, it should damage the oil seal. Install oil suction pipe and fastening. Install oil relief valve of lubricating oil and fastening. Put on the oil gasket and install oil sump gasket. Remind: There is no need to apply sealant to oil sump gasket. Install timing housing cover. Firstly, install seal washer in place. Put the timing housing in place. Screw the bolts. Remind: the position of the hole through the crankcase connected through the screw hole. When install audio, the thread need to apply sealant. Warning: before fastening, special tools should be used to make the timing housing relative to the crankshaft positioning and alignment. At this time can lock the nut, otherwise, may cause other parts difficult to be installed, such as water pump, pulley, etc. Install air compressor. Before installation, turn the air compressor to the timing position. Remind: rotate the compressor, align the mark on the crankshaft and face of air compressor to the corresponding digital, 6-cylinder to 6, 4-cylinder to 4, completion time timing. Warning: if nor have timing when install air compressor, random installation, it will increase the vibration of the engine during operation. Install seal ring in place. Rotate the engine to the 1 to 4 cylinder top. Install air compressor in place. Install lubrication oil pipe of air compressor. Install oil filter assembly. 4. Install the cylinder head assembly. Check whether appearance of cylinder head and air passageway is in good condition. Remind: the air valve guiding pipe of inlet air pipe and exhaust pipe is different. Inner hole with benches air valve guiding pipe of exhaust pipe. In a tall air valve guiding pipe of intake valve. Warning: if proper installation tools are not available, use a hammer to insert them by knocking on the tool along the axial direction of guiding pipe. Improper method of installation may cause damage to air valve guiding pipe. Turn over the cylinder head assembly. Install the intake valve and exhaust valve into the air valve guiding pipe. Warning: when install the air valve guiding pipe, apply the clean lubricating oil to the end of air valve guiding pipe. Turn over the cylinder head assembly. Install the air valve spring seat, gasket. Install air valve oil seal. Install air valve inner spring. Install air valve outer spring. Remind: when install double spring of air valve, the spring pitch of inner spring and outer spring is more dense and face to cylinder head. Don't install mistake. When install cycle air valve spring is no direction requirement. Install air valve spring cap. Install valve collet. Warning: when install valve collet, please choose the proper tools. Incorrect operation may harm the operator. Install the cylinder head gasket in place. Remind: when install the cylinder head gasket, please to pay attention to the gasket direction. There is top side face to upper, and place the gasket according to the direction indicated by the mark. Install the cylinder head assembly in place. Remind: there is 2-piece locating pin on the cylinder body. When install the cylinder head assembly, if the lifting equipment is not available, it shall be lifted by tow people working tractor. Put the cylinder head assembly in place to avoid injury to the operator. Install the bolts of cylinder head in place and tighten it according to the prescribed order. Remind: tighten the bolt to the torque of 110 Nm according to the sequence of indicated above figure. On this basis, the longest tube loads, L, rotate 210 degree. The middle bolt, M, Rotate 180 degree. The shortest bolt, S. Rotate 150 degree. Install valve lifter. Remind: apply lubricating oil to the tappet before install. After install, should confirm if the install is the concave center of valve tappet. Remind: check whether the seal ring at the outlet of the oil channel or rocker shaft is complete and effective. If damaged, replace it in time. Install rocker arm assembly. Place the oil inlet tube perpendicular to the cylinder head and aligned to the oil port accurately. Tightening the bolts of rocker arm assembly. Remind: the tightening torque is determined according to the material of rocker shaft: aluminum 40 Nm, cast iron or burn cast steel 75 Nm. Adjust valve clearance after rocker arm assembly is installed. How to adjust correctly? When adjust the first cylinder valve clearance, it should observe the fourth cylinder inlet valve state. When the fourth cylinder inlet valve just moving to open, and the exhaust valve just moving to close, it means that the first cylinder at the nearly top of compression, and then may adjust the first cylinder inlet valve and exhaust valve clearance. In a similar way, observe the first cylinder, and adjustment the fourth cylinder, observe the second cylinder, adjustment the thirdly cylinder, OBSVER the thirdly cylinder, adjustment the second cylinder. Install the water pump. Put the seal ring into the groove. Install the water pump and fastening it. Install the belt pulley. Install the belt pulley of 6-cylinder engine. Warning: when assembly the belt pulley of 6-cylinder engine, the open mouth of inner ring and outer ring should stagger 180 degrees. Strictly prohibit the open mouth of inner ring and outer ring coincident, otherwise will cause dismantle the belt pulley difficulty. Install high pressure fuel pipe. Install cylinder head cover. 5. Install inlet air pipe and exhaust pipe system. Install the gasket of supercharger and exhaust manifold in place. Install the supercharger on the exhaust manifold, and tightening the 4 nuts. Warning: the bypass valve of supercharger is not allowed to knock and use as handle. Install the gasket of supercharger elbow pipe, and tightening it. Install oil return pipe and gasket of supercharger. Install the exhaust manifold in place. Install the exhaust and supercharger assembly to cylinder head, and tightening nuts. Remind: before install intake pipe, it should add some lubrication oil, so that to ensure the lubrication effective in the initial state of motion. Install intake oil pipe of supercharger. Install the oil return pipe and gasket of supercharger.